The most bizarre equipment failures that changed history. Equipment malfunctions transformed cutting-edge military technology into death traps that killed more soldiers than enemy bullets. British tanks launched their revolutionary debut with crews who literally forgot to bring operating instructions. During the first major tank deployment at Flores-Courcelette in September 1916, several Mark I tanks became completely immobilized not because of enemy fire, but because their crews had no idea how to operate the steering systems. Tank commanders received their 28-ton vehicles without manuals, diagrams, or basic training on the complex steering mechanism that required multiple operators working in coordination. Some tanks drove in straight lines until they crashed into obstacles, while others spun helplessly in circles as confused crews struggled with controls they didn't understand. These expensive metal beasts became stationary targets, achieving the remarkable feat of being more dangerous to their own operators than to German forces. The tanks that managed to move often became trapped in shell craters because drivers had no training in obstacle navigation. French flamethrower disasters turned operators into human torches with terrifying regularity. The gross Flammenwerfer carried enough burning liquid to incinerate its user within seconds when a volatile system malfunctioned. A simple bump could trigger explosions that transformed operators into walking infernos, while fuel line ruptures covered crews in ignited petroleum during combat operations. French records document training exercises where flamethrower operators burst into flames, creating such terror that entire units refused to use the weapons. The devices were so unstable that enemy bullets hitting the fuel tanks turned operators into bombs that endangered nearby infantry. Some units reported more casualties from flamethrower malfunctions than from successful attacks against German positions. German gas masks became death traps in summer heat when rubber and fabric materials literally melted against soldiers' faces. When temperatures exceeded 80 degrees Fahrenheit, the masks would dissolve into toxic substances that poisoned wearers more severely than the enemy gases they were designed to filter. The melting process sealed masks to soldiers' skin, requiring painful removal procedures that caused permanent scarring and chemical burns. German troops in hot climates often chose to risk enemy gas exposure rather than wear protective equipment that might kill them faster than the chemicals it was meant to block. Russian artillery units discovered that factory sabotage had filled thousands of shells with sand instead of explosives. Workers opposed to the war systematically replaced explosive charges with sand, creating ammunition that looked normal but contained zero destructive capability. Russian bombardments used thousands of these sabotage shells, producing the sound and smoke of effective artillery attacks while causing no damage to German fortifications. Artillery officers couldn't distinguish between legitimate shells and sand-filled duds, meaning they planned major offensives based on artillery support that simply didn't exist. This industrial rebellion crippled Russian offensive capabilities and contributed directly to catastrophic military defeats. Austro-Hungarian machine guns jammed so frequently that soldiers used the expensive precision weapons as clubs during hand-to-hand combat. The Schwarzlos machine gun's cooling system failed in dusty conditions, causing weapons to seize after firing fewer than 50 rounds. Machine gun crews discovered their automatic firearms were more effective as blunt instruments than as shooting weapons, leading to the bizarre practice of converting sophisticated military equipment into primitive clubs. Some units removed barrels from jammed weapons to create better melee weapons, essentially turning machine gun positions into liability rather than assets during crucial battle moments. British aircraft manufacturing used water-soluble glue instead of waterproof adhesives, causing planes to dissolve mid-flight when exposed to rain or humidity. Pilots reported wings detaching from fuselages and control surfaces, failing as glue joints dissolved during flight operations. Some aircraft disintegrated so gradually that pilots realized their planes were falling apart before crashing to their deaths. The incorrect adhesive meant that aircraft stored outdoors became unusable after rainstorms, creating maintenance disasters where functional planes turned into scrap metal from weather exposure. French grenades featured chemical fuses so unpredictable they exploded anywhere from 2 to 20 seconds after activation. The timing varied wildly based on temperature, humidity, and manufacturing quality, creating weapons that might detonate immediately in soldiers' hands or fail to explode when thrown at enemy positions. French troops had no way to predict detonation timing, leading to more casualties from their own grenades than from German weapons. Some units abandoned grenade use entirely after experiencing repeated friendly fire incidents. German submarines suffered ballast tank failures that caused uncontrollable surfacing during combat operations. U-boats would emerge unexpectedly in enemy shipping lanes, transforming underwater vessels into sitting ducks for Allied destroyers and aircraft. The mechanical failures meant submarines couldn't maintain depth control, making them visible targets that could be easily destroyed with deck guns or depth charges. Some submarines surfaced so suddenly that crews had no time to prepare for surface combat. Russian rifles manufactured with reversed firing mechanisms killed soldiers attempting to use them. These weapons fired backwards when triggers were pulled, sending bullets into Russian soldiers' faces rather than toward German positions. The defect affected thousands of rifles, but poor quality control meant defective weapons reached frontline units without detection. Soldiers learned to test rifles by firing into the ground, but many discovered the fatal flaw only when attempting to shoot at enemy forces. Equipment failures killed an estimated 200,000 soldiers during the war, often occurring at crucial moments when reliable technology could have changed battle outcomes. These mechanical disasters transformed potential victories into devastating defeats through simple engineering incompetence.